Hi, welcome to day one of my series, Classification Symbols, Nazi-Era Segregation. I'm going to go through each classification and what they were used for. These symbols were used to distinguish between Nazi concentration camp prisoners, specifically regarding why they were arrested and put into camps in the first place. I hope this helps. Right now, we are living in a time where the United States president has decided to actually utilize one of these symbols when speaking about who is allowed to serve in our military and who isn't. So hopefully this offers some clarification as to why these symbols should not be tolerated and why they're dangerous. Okay, thanks. What we're going to be doing is starting with this specific chart. This is actually a postcard schematic of the triangle system that was used at most concentration camps. There are more symbols that were used outside of concentration camps, but we'll get into those in a little while. Today, we are going to start by discussing the red triangle. The red triangle is in the upper left-hand corner of the schematic that we're using to discuss this. The red triangle itself was used to distinguish political prisoners, occupied country resistance members, social democrats, liberals, socialists, communists, anarchists, Gentiles or non-Jewish people who assisted Jews, trade unionists, and Freemasons. Here we see a poem written by the Lutheran pastor Martin Niemöller. The poem is called First They Came For. Bear in mind that this poem was written by Martin Niemöller after he had spent 8 years of Nazi rule from 1937 to 1945 in Nazi prisons and concentration camps himself. He had previously been a supported proponent of radical right-wing political movements and even Nazi ideas. That stopped when Hitler came into power in 1933, and Martin Niemöller became a very harsh and outspoken critic of Hitler's interference with the Protestant church. As you can see, the poem itself addresses most of the people who were affected by the Red Triangle. Martin Niemöller himself was, like I stated, a Lutheran pastor out of Germany. The people that were designated with the Red Triangle were considered political prisoners because they stood for what the Nazi political party did not. Initially, the Nazi political party was focused very heavily on being anti-big business, anti-bourgeoisie, anti-capitalism, typically utilizing socialist rhetoric to gain support of the lower middle class, which is why we have today the miscommunication and misunderstanding that people believe that the Nazi political party was the Democratic Socialist Party. As you can see here, there were socialists, liberals, social democrats, and communists included in these political prisoners, people that stood for anti-fascist ideals and politics. This was all despite the fact that initially the Nazi political strategy was focusing on being anti-capitalist, anti-bourgeoisie, anti-big business, catering specifically to the lower middle class of Germany, that was focused on being very political at the time, even to the point of extremism due to the Great Depression that was happening in the 1930s. That was today's lesson in Nazi segregation and classification symbols. They are also called badges of shame. They were also utilized, again, outside of the camps in a different capacity, but also used to distinguish between people. We'll get into that later. I hope that everybody's having a wonderful day. This helps. This is for educational purposes only.